I forgot to mention this last chapter, but we've passed 100 reviews and 15,000 views. As of writing this, 115 reviews, 16,837 views. And this was written several days before I uploaded this, so it will be quite a bit higher by now. So thanks, guys. We now return you to your regularly scheduled broadcast. Raditz had no idea what was happening to himself. The rage inside was boiling over, manifesting as storm clouds, bolts of lightning, and chunks of rock breaking off out of the ground and floating around him. And with it, he felt some new kind of power, unlike anything he'd ever experienced before. It was like an unbearable heat inside of him, roaring to be let out. He was beyond words now. One thought dominated his mind, drowning everything out. Cooler must die. But then, it seemed like it was starting to fade. The heat, the power began to recede. It was rejecting him. He wasn't the one. It should have been Kakarot. Rational thought began to flood back in. And with it, fear. I can't do this. That was the power of the Super Saiyan. But I wasn't chosen. I failed. Father, Mother, Kakarot, Vegeta. I failed you all. Cooler was only holding back out of confusion. He'd come to his senses soon, and Raditz would die. Vegeta would soon follow, and the Saiyan race would finally be extinguished. Raditz fell to his knees, despairing, convinced he was about to die. Half mad with fear, he thought he heard a voice. Bardock's. Father? What is this? Father, I'm sorry. I can't do it. It's too much. What are you saying? Bardock's voice grew stern. Failing me again, are you? Just like always. You've let me down, son. As strong as you've become, in the grand scheme of things, to a being like this, you're still just the same old weak trash the other kids used to kick around for fun. No! This isn't like that. Nobody could win this battle. Kakarot could. If he was still alive, he'd harness this power. Vegeta, too. They're talented enough. You don't think I would? Bardock's voice began to fade. Such a cruel trick of fate. The only one of us to even come close to accessing the power of the Super Saiyan is the one little coward who can't handle it. Wait! The hallucination, if that's what it was, ended. Don't leave me, Father! I can't bear this alone! But wasn't Bardock right? He'd always been a failure. No matter what heights he climbed to, there was always someone better. Nappa, Vegeta, Kakarot, Frieza, Cooler. He'd never amounted to anything, and he never would. Raditz closed his eyes and waited for the end. No. His eyes snapped open. Where'd that come from? It was his own voice. Get up! Fight! It was his voice, but distorted, twisted, as if some kind of savage animal was trying to mimic his words. It rose with grim determination from the deepest part of his mind, the inner drive that lived at the very core of every true warrior. The one thing that remained when nothing was left, that made them fight to the end. That would drive them to attack an opponent they knew they couldn't beat. For the sake of their family, or for the sake of the battle itself. I can! I have to! Bardock died fighting Frieza. His kind. They've taken our home, enslaved the remnants, killed countless innocents for no reason at all. My brother, my own brother. They have to pay for what they've done, starting with him. If the power wouldn't accept him, he'd make it. Mentally, he grabbed hold of the receding anger and pulled it to the surface, forcing it every step of the way. It resisted. It hadn't chosen this one, but he didn't care. He made it his own. The heat surged back into his body, and this time a flash of gold ran through his hair. Cooler took a step back instinctively. In that moment, Cooler flinching away in fear, Raditz standing out, enveloped in his inner light, framed against the blackened sky, would forever remain locked in Raditz's memory. But not quite as vividly as what followed. It was building. Cracks spread from Raditz's feet, all the nearby grass withering and dying in seconds, crumbling to ash before the rising heat. Larger rocks began to float into the air, rising around Raditz until they hung over his head, then shattered from the shockwaves pouring out of him, and fell to the ground as dust. Another golden flash, and he seemed to struggle to lift his head, glaring at Cooler, who stood immobilized, uncomprehending. Thunder struck again as Raditz's body shook with building tension. The scene was playing over and over in his mind. Cooler just waved his hand and Goku died. Like it was nothing. Golden light exploded outwards, lifting up the unnatural night and hurling back the clouds. Raditz's scream lasted a full second. There have been many screams during the battle on planet Namek. Some screams of pain, some caused by the effort of powering up or shifting into another biological form. This, though, was pure anguish and hatred. The light dimmed to a bearable level, and Cooler gasped. Raditz had been transformed. A bright glow enveloped his body. His hair had become golden, standing on end and shining brightest of all. His eyes had lost the pupil iris distinction. In the center was a pure dot of piercing blue. Raditz stood silently for a moment, taking in the change. What is this? What does it mean? Cooler wondered. Saiyans transform into giant apes. In fact, this one lost its tail. He can't even do that. So what the hell is going on? Hey, Saiyan! What is this? What did you do? Raditz gave no reply. Thinks he can ignore me. Well, I'll just take out one of his knees and see if he can get any more talkative. Cooler pointed a finger and shot out a purple beam much like Frieza's attack. However, Raditz batted it away with a casual swing of his hand, without even turning to look at it. Wait, what? Raditz was still looking at the patch of ground where Goku had been minutes before. He's been completely destroyed. His blood isn't even left to honor him. He tore a strip of cloth from his trouser leg, pressing it to a bleeding cut on his arm from an earlier attack on Cooler. But again, like with Bardock, his blood is mine. The red soaked through, staining the dark blue cloth, and he tied it around his head. Another band, another memory. 3 now. How many more? He asked himself. Slowly, deliberately, Raditz's head turned. His ice-cold gaze pierced right through Cooler, who shivered, taking instinctive steps backwards. Raditz flickered and instantly appeared in front of him, terrified frost demon. No more, Cooler. No more of you and your kind. I've had enough! He grabbed Cooler one-handed by the head and slammed him face first into the ground. Cooler cried out, spitting blood, but Raditz wasn't finished. He took off at high speed, dragging Cooler's face along the ground, sharp rocks buckling and tearing at his skin. When they reached open water, Raditz let go, letting Cooler hurl away and crash into the ground on the other side of the lake. Raditz floated down to the planet's surface, walking slowly towards his enemy. Cooler struggled to stand, turning to face the enraged Saiyan. Damn monkey! I'll show you your place! Cooler threw a punch at full strength, and Raditz moved to the side at the last moment, swinging one hand down towards Cooler's upper arm, and the other up toward his forearm, wrenching the limb painfully, and following up by backhanding Cooler to the ground again. Cooler flew up into the air, breathing heavily. What is happening? He shrieked, firing a barrage of purple beams. Raditz just concentrated, the beams bouncing off his invisible shield of ki. What do you want from me, Saiyan? Cooler called. Surrender. To admit I can't win against whatever you are now. No. Raditz narrowed his eyes. I want you to bleed. I want you to suffer. And I want you to die. But Cooler clenched his fist. Not a chance. Take this! He focused his mental energies, bringing his psychic powers to bear and lifting slabs of rock the size of buildings out of the ground, bringing them in a loose orbit around his body. All right, big guy, just try and dodge this one. He threw the boulders with all his mental might simultaneously at Raditz, who stood still until the last second, then rocketed forward, smashing through the rocks one by one, darting back and forth to make sure he destroyed them all, coming to a halt inches away from Cooler's face. Yeah! Cooler howled in impotent fury as he flung a barrage of punches and kicks in desperation, none of them finding their mark. Raditz only had to move the slightest fraction right or left, but he'd always dodge in time. Finally, he counterattacked, his fist connecting with Cooler's face and sending him tumbling back and away through the air. Cooler righted himself, wiping blood away from his eyes and feeling the scratches on his face. You hurt me in my true form. Nobody outside my family has ever. His fear was building. You're no Saiyan. You can't be. They've never amounted to anything. What are you? Raditz's expression never lightened. He didn't taunt or laugh at his opponent's relative weakness. He just glared, like all the anger in the universe was bottled up inside those terrible, cold eyes. I am the answer to people like you, Cooler. I am the fire in every warrior's heart. I am released for all the dead souls who cry out for vengeance. I am the Avenger. I am your end. He frowned. In case that's too big a concept for your brain, let me make it simple for you. He flared up his aura, the force of his ki throwing Cooler back. I am the Super Saiyan! Raditz is this Super Saiyan then? Krillin scratched his head. That's good, I guess. But, King Kai, I can't help but wondering, is he on our side or what?
I'm not sure,
King Kai responded.
He's so filled with anger. It's impossible to tell what he'll do after this battle. He could be a savior or a destroyer. Hope of the universe or bringer of death.
Come on! Get to the ship Goku and Raditz arrived in, and hurry! Tien was telling the others. The battle was taking place several miles away, and they were fleeing for their lives. Tien clenching his teeth and holding his broken arm as still as possible. But what happened? Bulma asked. Are you sure Goku died? Tien nodded. Come on, the others are already ahead. Something happened to Raditz. I don't know what. When Cooler killed Goku, he just snapped. And his power is enormous. We'd better get off this planet while we can. But what about what we decided before? About how we can't leave with a battle like this going on? Bulma protested. We'll just have to take our chances. Come on, we're dead if we stay here. No, it can't be true. Cooler hadn't believed the stories. Who had? It was just an old legend. But seeing this golden warrior here, now, what else was there to believe? Wait! Cooler was cut off by Raditz's foot in his stomach, driving the breath from his body. Raditz spun around, driving an uppercut into Cooler's chin and downing him again. Cooler forced himself to keep getting up. If he could just get an opportunity. Hey, Super Saiyan! Raditz was about to launch his next attack, but paused to hear this. You surely don't want to fight me in this weak form, do you? Weak? Raditz folded his arms. That's your true form, I know that. This is your full power, and frankly, it's not much to boast about. Cooler let the remark slide. He didn't want to provoke the Saiyan. My true form, perhaps, but not my final form. Do what you will. Raditz didn't make a move to attack. I'll fight you at full power, and I'll break you. Very well. Cooler initiated his transformation to his fifth form, this time not standing on ceremony or showing off. It took him less than 5 seconds to change into his much larger fifth form. His spikes gleamed, his eyes blazed, and behind his organic mask, Cooler grinned. "Alright, monkey. Are you ready for round 2? He growled. "Well, if you don't stop talking and attack in the next few seconds, I will," Raditz replied, not even mentioning Cooler's transformation. You are not impressed by my final form. What? Is this really your full power?" Raditz eyed Cooler, weighing him up in his mind. "Is that all?" "Is that all? Is that all? You!" Cooler trembled with rage. "How dare you!" He charged up as Raditz, and they struck simultaneously, Raditz's foot catching Cooler in the head as Cooler's fist smashed into Raditz's side. They fell away from each other, catching themselves in midair and preparing to continue fighting. For the first time in quite a while, Raditz smiled. "That's more like it," he said. "Show me what you're really made of." They sped off, battling back and forth, plowing through hills and lakes like they weren't there. Each blow resonated throughout the whole planet. Even the battle between the Frost Demon's brothers hadn't been this intense. Raditz leapt up out of the ocean, Cooler following him. Cooler swung his tail in a surprise attack from the side, but Raditz ducked under it, leaping back into the fight. And they continued to trade lightning-fast attacks, neither gaining a clear upper hand. Cooler had, perhaps, a slight edge in physical strength. He took a minor glancing hit to his armored shoulder, and threw a devastating punch that knocked Raditz to the ground. He followed up with a thick purple energy wave fired from each hand. Raditz jumped to his feet and dodged one, but the other hit him in the back, making him stagger away. Cooler tried to press his advantage, but Raditz spun around, lashing out. Cooler caught his attacking leg and fired another energy blast at point-blank range, making Raditz cry out in pain and tearing a ragged hole in his shirt. Raditz flexed his oar, pushing outwards with his ki and forcing Cooler to let go. Raditz charged after him, driving his fist between two armor plates. Cooler grunted with pain, but quickly recovered, and the fast-paced combat resumed. The fight was dragging on. The individuality of each strike was lost, and they merged in the fighters' minds into one great struggle, an unrelenting clash of wills. They broke off and fired quick blasts at each other, the gold and purple beams meeting in the middle and detonating. Cooler rushed through the smoke, renewing his attack with incredible force, driving Raditz back. A double fist to the back knocked Raditz out of the air, forming a crater as he landed, and stood back up. "Well, what do you think?" Cooler asked, as Raditz rubbed a slowly forming bruise on his shoulder where he'd taken several hits. "Are you impressed yet?" "Is that it?" Raditz glared straight up at Cooler. Is that the legendary power of the feared ruler of the universe? You can't even crush one monkey! Come on!" He soared up and slammed his body into Cooler, knocking the Frost Demon away. He pursued his opponent, but Cooler spun around, dodging his charge, and elbowed him in the head. Raditz didn't stop to let himself feel the pain, launching himself back towards Cooler, and punching him straight in the chest, injuring his hand, but cracking the armor plates. Cooler seized the Super Saiyan by the shoulders, and slammed him down into the ground, through an empty Namekian house. Cooler picked up Raditz and threw him away, the Golden Warrior crashing into a cliff face, and sliding down to the rocky floor below. Raditz heaved himself up onto his hands and knees, bleeding from dozens of small cuts all over his body. "Have you had enough now?" Cooler roared. "Or are you still acting tough, pretending I'm not winning?" He charged forwards again. Before Raditz could react, started raining down blows onto the Saiyan's back and shoulders, using his height to his advantage. After a few seconds of this, Raditz straightened up and took hold of Cooler's wrists in one sudden movement. His eyes blazed. "That's not enough, Cooler! Try harder! Go on, attack me! That's not nearly enough!" Cooler smashed a fist into Raditz's face, twisting and kicking him right through a cliff behind him. Raditz backflipped, landing on his feet, and demolished the cliff with a wave of his hand. "Come on!" he yelled. "Fight me!" They ran at each other, and the battle rejoined. Well, this chapter was originally way longer, but I split it in two, because it did actually make two decent length chapters. So the battle between Raditz and Cooler will conclude next chapter. I got carried away writing, so chapter 19 is already written. I'll post it sometime tomorrow, Monday. There will also be a Wednesday update as usual. And just in case you were wondering about power levels, I know some people don't really like them, but some people have been asking for them. Raditz 3 million, Raditz Super Saiyan 150 million, Cooler 80 million, and Cooler Final Form 160 million. Yep, remember in DBZ when Goku had quite a significant advantage over Frieza? No. Goku dying and Raditz becoming a Super Saiyan is a very nice touch. I'm looking forward to his battle against Cooler, and the best part is, I don't know if he's strong enough to defeat Cooler. I'm also looking towards Goku and Vegeta becoming Super Saiyans. It will be interesting on how you do this. Yeah, I like the fact that this battle will be a bit more difficult if Cooler's final form was only about 120 to 130 million. You know Raditz would win, and it would actually play out just like the Goku/Frieza fight. Well, you can probably guess from the tone of the story so far, it isn't going to end unhappily. But I hope it at least gives some people some concern about the battle, rather than just, meh, it's already won. So, Raditz became the Super Saiyan. I could see Gohan becoming Super Saiyan as well with the same trigger, but Gohan would probably need more than just that, like the death of Uncle Raditz, which adds yet another question. What is the relationship like between Gohan and Raditz? And did you really just kill Zarbon and Dende off, or was Cooler just bluffing? Also, it seems based on the Q&As making Zarbon a good guy seems like a good idea, or at least try to write him since if it doesn't work out, you could always kill him off later. But hey, you're the writer, and I know what it's like to feel pressured to do something in a story, because I have it happen to me as well. Zarbon and Dende are dead, yes. The relationship between Gohan and Raditz, not much of one, and usually on similar lines to the conversations I've written between them. Gohan tries to start talking about something, Raditz ignores him or tells him to be quiet. Holy damn, I can say for a fact that I did not see that coming. I fully expected Raditz to be slaughtered, and that would be the final push for Goku to transform. I think this chapter did an excellent job of misleading the audience, namely me, into thinking that Goku would transform. But I think that detracted a bit from Raditz's transformation. I feel like there was so much insight into Goku's thoughts that we never really entirely understand Raditz's despair. A nice touch in my honest opinion that would have been describing Raditz's turmoil, and him recalling how his fellow Saiyans mocked him for being weak and how he needed to be strong for the sake of this planet and his friend's family. Other than that, excellent work. So, what did you think about the beginning of this chapter? Also, good to know I led some people to believe it was going to be Goku. That was what I was hoping for. Raditz the Super Saiyan. I would not have expected that. Vegeta is going to be pissed. My only thing about this chapter is I wish there was a tad more detail on Goku's death. Just a tad more. Sorry about that. And as for Vegeta, yes, he is. Dun dun dun! Raditz is the one who received the power. Dun dun dun! Raditz is the one who received the all-time power. Unexpected, yet expected at the same time. Who would have expected that? Something that I found kind of weird, though, was that a section of this chapter was, Goku is the greatest. While I think the guy is awesome, it was kind of stale having everybody rely on him so much, and him getting all the power in fights. Though these were all within reason, but I just hope that this doesn't happen again. Yeah, I was only doing that to subvert it at the end with it being Raditz after all. About Nail. In canon DBZ, it seemed Nail's influence tied Piccolo closer to Dende, who was also friends with Gohan. Well, in your Breakthrough the Limit, DBZ Piccolo has no such attachment, and Nail isn't a plot device power-up. I could see him following Little Green to Earth, if Kami vacates his position as Guardian. Nail may not be a super Namek, but if he goes through the year-long training that Breakthrough the Limit canon Goku did, and with another green alien, he'd be well suited to defend his next home planet. Unless Meta Frieza comes a-knocking. Still, about Zarbon, that wish was nicely worded. It seems he has a power level of his base 23,000 form, combined with the power level of his beast 30,000 form, making him conveniently 10% of Frieza's weakest 53,000 form, and stronger than the warrior Namek. Wonder if Breakthrough the Limit Zarbon has ever trained in 10 Gs. Still, about Frieza, sorta. I really liked how you worked his brother into your fan in DBZ. It's my hope that you similarly do with the other movie cast as you see reasonable. It is my hope that you similarly do so with other movie casts as you see reasonable. About Nail, he's been around for a while. About Zarbon, I don't know what the gravity of his home planet is. Suffice to say, he probably comes from a very powerful species, and on top of that, it is probably their best. And about movie characters, yes, as I see reasonable. You may already be able to tell that movies 1 through 4 haven't been able to fit into this timeline, but movie 5 characters have, and the rest may or may not be in there. Great chapter once again. So Frieza's 4th form column is 100 million and Cooler 80 million. And DBZ canon Frieza's 100% was 120 million, so what would Cooler be, 90 or 95 million? It's an interesting development to see what would have happened if Goku faced Frieza earlier than he did in DBZ. Well, yes, Frieza at full power is 120 million. Cooler, well, yes, Frieza at full power is 120 million. Cooler is much better at controlling his 4th form, so his full 80 million is available to him all the time. However, his 5th form is twice that, 160 million. Also in DBZ, Goku was about 90,000 earlier, possibly up to 900,000 with Kaioken. So it wouldn't have been exactly the same as the fight and break through the limit. Wow, Goku's death really spun me for a loop. I was not expecting that at all. With the way the narrative was going, it seemed like Cooler was going to kill everyone else at first. Ironic how Raditz and Vegeta seemed so dead set on Goku being the Super Saiyan, only for him to die in such an impersonal death at Cooler's hands. Great storytelling on that front. Although I am curious as to where Vegeta scampered off to train more in higher gravity perhaps? Such a retreat by Vegeta seems uncharacteristic, unless he has very specific reasons to further his own goals. Good to know that I got the elements of surprise. And as for Vegeta, Chapter 19 should be informative. Nice to see that Zarbon is changing for the better. Mostly. He's starting to value others, but he still won't throw himself into the fray in a hopeless distraction. He could just be acting realistic in the fact that Cooler would, and does, crumple him like an aluminum can. But it's probably just remnants of villain cowardice. Along with everything else, I do hope that he comes back. Along with everyone else, I do hope that he comes back. With both Raditz becoming a Super Saiyan and Cooler holding power yet untapped, I really can't tell how this will end. It's just amazing, really. Why, thank you. I did enjoy writing a battle in which neither fighter was dominating the other, but it was still a bit of an uphill struggle for the hero, to preserve drama and all that. How will the story be effective if Raditz becomes the Super Saiyan? That's pretty much what the next few chapters are about. Super Saiyan Raditz. Oh, what I would give to see the looks on Vegeta and Ghost Nappa's faces right now. Yep, of course, think of it this way. Vegeta leaves Namek thinking Goku is the Super Saiyan, but later he reports of his battle just talking about a Super Saiyan or a Golden Warrior. Perhaps he'll sense an enormous, angry power level as he leaves. He won't necessarily know it's Raditz. Vegeta reading the Q&A. Wait, what did you say? It's Raditz? What the hell? Thank you for listening to this chapter. Please stay tuned for the final chapter of the Namek saga. The battle between Raditz and Cooler will conclude. Stay tuned. Just to clarify something, there was a one-off Monday update, which I did promise I'd do. There was a Sunday update, go back if you've missed, and there will be a Wednesday update. I'll continue updating on Wednesdays and Sundays whenever possible. Oh, and the previous highest views day for Chapter 16 has been 958, I believe, but Chapter 18 smashed that record, with this story getting 1,800 views on its release day. That's double the previous highest. You guys are the best. The two warriors attacked and defended, fighting back and forth, up and down, striking and blocking with expert precision, neither willing to give up the slightest advantage. Cooler landed another punch on Raditz's stomach, but he immediately countered, punching the side of Cooler's head and snapping one of his armor spikes off. Cooler lunged, but Raditz jumped into the air, kicking him in the head and knocking him through a building. Cooler jumped back up, growling to himself. "You're slowing down, Cooler," Raditz called. "If you start to weaken, I will take the opportunity to kill you." This was merely a bluff. They were almost exactly equal in speed and technique, but Cooler's brute strength, massive size, and natural spikes in armor, not to mention possessing a fifth limb, gave him something of an advantage. "You're far too confident you overgrown gorilla!" Perhaps, if the Super Saiyan had been Goku, or someone as lighthearted as him, the reply would have been, "Hey, some of my best friends are gorillas, and they take offense to that." As it was, Raditz's reply was simply to dodge an energy beam from Cooler, quickly move around behind him, grab his tail by one hand, and hurl him away. Cooler mowed down a forest as he bounced along the ground, managing to right himself about a mile away. He stood up, glancing around for any sign of his enemy. Raditz appeared behind him again, but this time, Cooler was expecting him, and his knee strike caught Raditz off guard, his following tail strike knocking the Super Saiyan into the ground, driving him several feet down into the dirt. There was a snarl from underneath, and Raditz rose from underground, soil cascading off his shoulders. One leg of his trousers was ripped up to the knee, and blood seeped from a large gash where the spike on the end of Cooler's tail had torn his leg. But he didn't seem to notice. Or maybe he just didn't care. "Why can't I kill this one Saiyan?" Cooler shouted to no one in particular before rushing at Raditz, who raised an arm and resisted his charge, skidding back through the dirt against the force of Cooler's impact. They took off again, Cooler chasing Raditz through canyons and valleys, over lakes and mountains. He lost track of Raditz, and as soon as he stopped to try and find him, the Saiyan crashed into his back with both feet, throwing a powerful punch that made Cooler's vision swim. However, weakened from his injuries, Raditz overbalanced from his next attack, and Cooler, having just recovered, caught him in a headlock. He tried to force Raditz's neck down towards a sharp shard of rock that jutted out from the ground, and Raditz pushed up and away with all his strength, but he was slowly losing. I could just flatten that rock with my ki, but that divert attention from resisting his headlock. He'd be able to shove me to the ground, getting the advantage again. No, there has to be a better way. He twisted to the side, kicking one of Cooler's feet off the ground to destabilize him. Raditz pushed away with all his might, and Cooler landed flat on his back, and Raditz jumped down on top of him, driving him into the ground with both feet, cracks spreading under the tyrant's body. "Come on, Cooler! You can do better! I demand more than this! What do you call that?" He jumped away, allowing Cooler to stand up and shake himself off before charging back in. "Fight! Harder! Shut up! Just stop talking!" Cooler rocketed into Raditz, punching him and snapping his head left, right, and then straight backwards. Raditz made an effort not to let himself retreat a step, simply skidding back and forth with the force of the impacts, dragging along the rough ground until his shoes were in tatters and his feet bloody. His head hung as he gasped for breath, feeling battered and broken all over. "But I will not lose!" He raised his head, looking up at Cooler, who was standing over him, breathing raggedly and a little shaky on his feet, but looking confident again. "Well, you're starting to take longer to recover. Finally had enough. Ready to admit defeat at the hands of a superior being." "No!" Raditz gathered all of his energy, propelling himself at his monstrous foe. "You can beat me into the ground all day, but what I represent can never be destroyed by a creature like you. Whatever you do, it's..." He gripped Cooler by the sides of his head and rammed his forehead into the Frost Demon's face. "Not good enough!" The force of the impact knocked off chips of armor all the way up to Cooler's spiked crest, and the diamond-like blue circle in his forehead cracked. Cooler reeled, blood pouring from his face and seeping down from the top of his head, and Raditz skidded to a halt, watching carefully as Cooler staggered around. Cooler choked. He gasped. He retched. He cried out in shock, and finally, with a horrible grinding noise, he regressed to his fourth form. Spiked, armored growths vanished, and he shrank to his normal size. The light faded from his eyes, and his muscles lost some of their strength. "What? No! You can't..." There. Raditz straightened up, smiling. "I've beaten you. You don't have enough energy to sustain that powered-up form any longer. Arrogant little ape! Cooler screamed, struggling to stand and swinging a fist, but Raditz caught it. He gave 2 quick jabs to the stomach that winded Cooler, following up by kicking him into the air, racing ahead of him, and punching him to the ground, and then landing on top of him, 1 foot resting on Cooler's head. I don't believe you, Raditz shouted. You go around beating up those far weaker than you, and laughing at their deaths. But when it comes to a real fight, you've got nothing! Nothing? Cooler wheezed. You're half dead! You call that nothing? It doesn't matter how injured I am. You're beaten by a lesser being. And now you're going to pay for everything you've done. He stepped off of Cooler. Get up! Cooler slowly stood, staring in hatred at Raditz. Suddenly the Saiyan was upon him again, an iron-hard fist landing a solid blow to his face. That was for killing Frieza, and robbing the Saiyans of their rightful revenge! Cooler clutched a hand to the side of his face, which stung from the force of the punch. Cooler lashed his tail, but it seemed to pass right through Raditz. He dodged faster than Cooler's senses could follow. Raditz threw another punch to Cooler's abdomen, doubling him over. That was for my allies you and your brother killed, and all the innocent Namekians you dragged into this! Cooler propped himself up on a rock, his breath coming in ragged gasps, his voice hoarse. All right, I get it, he rasped, and so on ad nauseum. The next one is for your brother Kakarot, wasn't it? No. Raditz took a deep breath. I think I can remember how to do it. He's thrust both his hands out in front of him, palms forward, trying to achieve calm. Not easy in his Super Saiyan state. Slowly, he drew his hands back until they rested at his right side. This is for my brother, Son Goku! A bright blue ball of energy appeared between his hands, flickering as it grew. Kame! Cooler couldn't sense energy, but he knew a deadly attack when he saw it. Please, don't! Raditz flung his arms forward, the brilliant blue energy bursting forth as a thundering beam of light. It engulfed Cooler, lighting up the planet for miles around. Raditz sunk to the ground in the aftermath, finally feeling injured and exhausted. I told you, Cooler. You weren't good enough. He sighed, slipping out of his enhanced Super Saiyan state, his aura receding, his hair and eyes returning to normal, and his bulked-out, muscular structure relaxing. I'd better get out of here. I'd better get out of here, he muttered to himself. There's not much left of this planet. Hey, monkey! Raditz turned at the sound of the voice. What's this huge energy I'm sensing? It built so fast I could barely follow it. Cooler hovered a mile or so above the planet's surface. He'd been trying to escape the blast, so his lower body had been hit the hardest. His tail and his legs were crushed. One finger was stretched up to the heavens, and above it was a massive, crackling yellow ball of energy. Huh? Raditz's eyes widened. How did you build that so quickly? I've practiced this one a lot, Cooler replied, laughing. You can survive in space and others cannot. You'll learn that a quick supernova attack is often preferable to fighting, and much less effort. Hyah! He threw it down at the planet, throwing up a massive explosion. The light, the noise, drowned out everything. What's happening? Nil wondered aloud as Bulma tried to take off in the ship. The turbulence had increased, and shortly they lost all control. The battle must have gotten even more intense. We're not going to be able to clear the atmosphere. What are we going to do? Gohan whined. Hold on, kid. I'm trying. Bulma wrestled with the controls. But I don't think... There was a gentle humming noise, and the ship's occupants vanished, leaving the unpiloted vessel alone to crash back into the planet's surface. The light, the noise, died down. Raditz lowered his hand from shielding his eyes, staring at the massive crater in the planet's surface. So, you were going to destroy the planet, huh? He called up to the Namek's would-be destroyer. Damn! I must power than I thought, Cooler grumbled. Still, it's destabilized the core. I give it, 5... I think so. I mean, it's just a rough estimate. I wouldn't like to say exactly. Yes! 5 minutes before planet Namek is no more. Better move quickly. Raditz focused, finding that anger, that power again, and powered back up to his Super Saiyan form. It was much easier the second time. 5 minutes, huh? Well, no problem. I'll finish you, then leave. I imagine my friends are already gone. Friends? The word sounded good, he realized. What? No! Get out of here! Run! Not from you. Raditz shot up towards Cooler. Never from you! He hammered Cooler to the ground with a double-fisted swing, following him down as the former ruler hit the rocky terrain below, throwing up a cloud of dust. As Raditz stalked towards his prey, Cooler started frantically firing off small energy bolts. All were dodged or knocked away with the barest minimum of effort. Raditz stood over Cooler's shattered form. You're dying, you realize, the victorious warrior stated matter-of-factly. Say it. Help me. Cooler reached out a twisted hand. What? Raditz was genuinely surprised. The stone-hearted tyrant was begging. Please. Mercy. The Super Saiyan's eyes hardened. How dare you! He hauled up by one arm, flying over to the crater from the Frost Demon's attack on the planet itself. How dare you act like that! Kill my own brother in front of my eyes, and then ask me to show mercy! You sicken me! Cooler was clutching at straws, trying to think of something, anything, to convince Raditz with. What would your brother do? Raditz paused for a while. Goku would spare your life. He'd let you live, with the promise that he wouldn't be so lenient if he ever crossed your path again. He'd leave now, giving you enough energy to sustain yourself until you could get medical attention. Hope filled Cooler's face. Then you'll... Raditz scowled. Lightning struck, illuminating his unforgiving face in sharp black and white. But I am not my brother. He punched Cooler once more in the stomach for good measure, then dropped him into the crater, where he'd fall until he hit the volatile planet core. Perhaps Cooler could survive without a planet, but withstanding the actual detonation itself was another matter entirely. Reversing his Super Saiyan transformation again, Raditz lifted off, searching for a ship. The battle was won. Last. Now, the journey home. Home. Another word he hadn't had much use for before. Raditz smiled slightly. This new life with the Earthlings. He could get used to it. Vegeta ignored his injuries. They weren't important. The Ginyu Force attack pod floated gently through space, projecting an artificial atmosphere as he anchored himself to the outside with his ki. The better to watch Namek tear itself apart. Today, I retreated from battle, from those low-class brothers, and that three-eyed friend. Again. I cannot. I will not fail another time. Next time, they will all die. I was happy enough for Kakarot to be the Super Saiyan, as long as there was one. But now that Frieza and his brother are dealt with, I can't sense their energy anymore, anyway. Kakarot has become an offense to my royal heritage. It should have been me! He bellowed to the uncaring void. I will leave for now. And I will become a Super Saiyan. This is not a question or a vague goal. It is a fact. I simply will. And then I will return to Earth. And they will bow before their rightful ruler, right before they die. Gohan sat up in the middle of a grassy field on Earth? It certainly looked like it. And looking around, Tien, Bulma, and Nail were all there too. Everyone from the spaceship. But Gohan rubbed his eyes. Dende? You're here too? I thought... Dende smiled. You can thank King Kai. We revived Kami, the Namekian, on your planet while we were on Namek, right? Gohan nodded, a grin spreading over his face. Oh yeah! That means the Earth Dragon Balls must be working again, and they use them to wish you guys back. Yep. Dende gestured. Everyone killed by Frieza and Cooler's armies. Gohan glanced around the field, seeing dozens of resurrected Namekians milling around. Yamcha was showing off his martial arts skills to a small group of the green-skinned aliens, and Zarbon was leaning against a tree away from the rest of the group. Bulma was whistling nonchalantly and sauntering over to the former soldier of Frieza. That meant Purunga, our dragon, came back as well, and there was still one wish left, so he used it to bring all of us here when Cooler destabilized planet Namek. Dende finished. That's great! That's great! Gohan jumped to his feet, frantically looking left and right. But, where's my dad and uncle? I'm sorry, Gohan. Dende shrugged. King Kai, can you explain? The familiar voice spoke in Gohan's head.
Hey, kid. Well, Raditz didn't want to leave. He wanted to finish the battle against Cooler. His pride and his anger. It wouldn't let him walk away.
But my dad... Gohan looked like he was on the verge of breaking into tears. He hasn't been brought back with the others? King Kai sighed, wondering how to tell the kid.
He didn't want to be revived just yet.
What?
He thought it might lessen Raditz's resolve to fight if he sensed Goku was back from the dead. He said we can revive him later, after the battle is won.
But is it? Did Raditz win? Gohan shuffled awkwardly, anxious to hear about what was going on.
Yes, he did. Cooler is dead. The galaxy's rulers have been struck a fatal blow on Namek.
King Kai inhaled deeply.
But I'm not sure if Raditz can escape now. The planet is tearing itself apart. Cooler's attack really damaged it.
Then we'll wish him back too, Gohan nodded. Yeah, that's it.
Well, just make sure you don't get used to wishing all your problems away. And anyway, you'll have to wait a while before the Dragon Balls can be used again. We used up all our wishes for now.
King Kai ended the call. I hope Uncle Raditz doesn't die, Gohan mumbled. I want to see him soon. Hey, don't worry, Gohan, Dende reassured him. Thanks to you and your friends, our entire race escaped Frieza and Cooler's attack alive. We're in your debt, and you can use our Dragon Balls to bring your friends back. They recharge quicker than Earth's. 1 Namekian year is less than an Earth year. Alright, I'm sure you guys can stay at Capsule Corporation until we can figure out where you're planning to live permanently. Gohan, everyone for thinking ahead. Spot on in this instance. Raditz was growing frantic, his sense of satisfaction and fulfillment at the winning battle, and at realizing that he did have a home to go back to, were fading as he continued his increasingly hopeless search for a working spaceship. They were all either too damaged to work, or being swallowed up by the cracks that were spreading out from the crater as Namek's surface tore itself apart. Spying an attack pod being buffeted by the elements and literally rolling along the ground, Raditz flew down to it, stopping its tumble with one hand and climbing inside. It was a customized model used by the Ginyu Force, and the controls were unfamiliar. Come on! Raditz shockwaves rocked the planet, and lava began to flood to the surface, pouring out of the crevices over the landscape. Come on! Damn it, I'm running out of time! He snapped. Oh. King Kai gulped. Krillin paused from his training, jogging over to his teacher. Did something happen?
I'm afraid so.
King Kai sniffed.
Planet Namek has been destroyed by Cooler's attack. The explosion was delayed, but it finally happened.
But did everyone make it out alright? Krillin asked frantically. The diminutive god sighed.
Most of them. The 2 sets of Dragon Balls were used to resurrect the dead, according to my plan. You excluded, having already been wished back once, and move everyone to Earth.
Krillin tilted his head to one side. Well, maybe you could have filled me in while all this was going on. I'd have quite liked to know about it. Anyway, what's this most of them? I don't like the sound of that.
Raditz remained on Namek to finish his battle with Cooler. He won, but he wasn't able to escape in time. At least, I don't think so.
You don't think so? Krillin raised an eyebrow. King Kai, you can see anywhere in the universe with those antennae of yours. Why don't you know?
Well, all the heat and energy put out by the explosion is interfering with my viewing of the surrounding area. And anyway, even if, by some miracle, he managed to take off with seconds to spare,
King Kai shrugged.
he's far too wounded to survive the trip to Earth. It doesn't look good, I'm afraid.
He coughed, shook his head to clear out all his pessimistic talk, and brightened up.
But I'm sure he'll be wished back along with you. And anyway, such a great blow has been struck against the forces of tyranny this day. Frieza, Cooler, and the most powerful soldiers, all defeated in one battle.
And over here, we have the main lab. It's mostly my dad's. I've got my own in the West Wing. Bulma was saying, leading Zarbon, now dressed in casual clothes, jeans and pink shirt, the only things lying around that had fit, made more embarrassing by the description, bad man, on the back of the shirt. Well, most people would have considered it embarrassing, especially given the color, but he didn't seem to mind. By one arm, on a tour of the Capsule Corporation compound. It was a week later, and everyone had settled down. Chi-Chi had needed a while to accustom herself to the fact that her husband was dead, but would be coming back. That his brother was the legendary, most powerful being in the universe. And that her son hadn't done his homework at all while being away in space. This last one being a particular sticking point. The time seemed to pass quickly. They all met often, giving updates on how many Dragon Balls had been found around the world, planning out wishes in detail, or just having picnics and barbecues and enjoying a well-earned time of peace after the war on Earth and Namek. These idyllic days were shared with the 100 or so Namekians. The planet's population had been extremely small after the disaster of a few years beforehand. Guru, their grand elder, had passed on of natural causes very soon after arriving on Earth, leaving their second eldest, Muri, the guardian of the Namekian people. An unexpected figure appeared at one of these gatherings. Is this one of those dreams? Or is Piccolo standing on your house, Bulma? Yamcha asked, pointing. No, that's definitely him, Bulma blinked. I'd almost forgotten about that guy. I hope he doesn't want any trouble. Don't worry, guys, Tien said. I could take him. His power's grown a lot since we last saw him, but I think Zarbon could beat him too. Really? Bulma eyed the green-haired, mildly narcissistic alien visitor, who was hanging upside down in midair with the force of his ki, reading Machiavelli's Il Principe. Well, I don't like to boast, he said with a slight smirk that said he did. But I should say so. Whoever this turban-sporting person is, he seems to be almost equal in power to Nail. He was exercising his recently learnt ability to sense ki, something he'd very quickly refined to a high level of accuracy and could tell you exactly where everyone ranked in comparison to each other. That's true. Hey Piccolo, you must have been doing some intense training, Tien called. You've improved. Piccolo hopped down to the ground a few meters away. I was in hell, Shinhan. Every day was a battle. It toughens you up, as long as you avoid the real heavy hitters. So what are you doing here? Not looking for revenge, I hope. Was planning on enjoying a quiet picnic, thanks. Piccolo grunted. Just checking in on everyone. I don't want to get behind on what's going on. Kami's been even more unhelpful than usual. I wasn't planning on spoiling your little party. So, what's happening then? Well, Tien scratched his head. Since you died, we went to planet Namek. Your home planet, actually. Fought a lot of aliens and ran into some really powerful alien rulers called Frieza and Cooler. We met Vegeta again, but Goku arrived and beat him. Cooler killed Frieza and Goku, and that made Raditz turn into some kind of Super Saiyan, I think. He killed Cooler, but Namek was destroyed and Raditz was caught in the blast. So we're going to use the Dragon Balls from Namek to find the Namekians a new home planet and bring Goku, Raditz, and Krillin back to life. Does that help? Piccolo nodded slowly. I knew most of it, but not everything. Super Saiyan. Wonder what that is. Some kind of golden warrior, the most powerful being in the universe. Nail was standing a few feet away. It seemed unusually tense. He shivered slightly. What's your problem? Piccolo demanded. You're an evil Namekian. Such a thing should not exist. Nail breathed deeply, trying to calm himself. but the being in front of him was an affront to his ideals, simply by existing. Have you got a problem with that? Piccolo cracked his knuckles. If you don't like me for what I am, I'd be happy to let you work off some of that aggression. They tensed up, their energy rising. Hey, guys! Bulma eyed the scouter lying on the grass next to her. Scouters had, since their return to Earth, become the standard for all Capsule Corp security workers, noting its urgent beeping as the two warriors powered up. Keep the power levels down! You'll scare Yamcha! Hey! Yamcha scowled at her, and she grinned to herself. Yeah, he resembles that remark, Tien said, trying to keep his smile from showing. That's not funny, you guys! Yamcha stopped off. Chaozu, sitting next to Tien, giggled, the shared merriment completely diffusing the situation. But Piccolo gave an ugly look to Nail as he left, flying off to be alone, which was, to be fair, what he did best. The day soon came to summon Porunga. One Namekian year had passed, and the Dragon Balls were active again. Everything went according to plan. However, while having many advantages over Earth dragons, Porunga could only restore one life per wish, so they used the first two on Krillin and Goku. The Saiyan appeared on the golden glow at Porunga's base, smiling as if this was an everyday occurrence. Hey guys, I missed you! Gohan flung himself into his father's arms, and Chi-Chi soon followed, berating him half-heartedly for coming home late again. Goku held his family, laughing softly. It's okay guys, I'm here now. I'm sorry I couldn't come earlier. I hope you understand. It's alright, Goku. Tien patted his old rival on the shoulder. So, where's Krillin at then?
Oh, he'll be making his way down Snake Way right now,
King Kai answered telepathically.
He's improved a lot. At this level, it should take less than an hour to reach you.
Awesome! I can't wait to see my old friend again. Goku, for the first time in quite a while, was truly happy. My patience is not infinite, Porunga grumbled. What is your final wish? Porunga, the new Elder Mori called in Namekian. Please restore the life of the Saiyan named Raditz. There was a slight pause. That wish cannot be granted. The one called Raditz lives. He's alive? Goku grinned. Raditz, I don't believe you. He's alive. Ask if Porunga can bring him here. Mori made the request, and the dragon spoke again. This wish cannot be granted. The one called Raditz does not want to return at this time. Huh? General puzzlement was the response to this. I wonder why not, Goku asked, not expecting an answer, and not receiving one. Hurry! What is your third wish? Well, you've got nothing left, Goku nodded to Mori. I guess you can find your people a new home. Except me. A voice cut through the crowd. Nail stepped forwards. Nail? Mori raised an eyebrow. We will miss you. Why do you wish to stay? This planet intrigues me. Nail indicated the humans standing with the Namekians. I have fought alongside its warriors, and would be honored to train among them and refine my skills. Besides, the evil Namekian, Piccolo. I wish to learn more about him. I want to believe that there is hope for him. Very well. Mori bowed in admission. I respect your decision. We have many experienced telepaths. I'm sure you can contact us should you wish to come. I am equally sure at some point I will. Nail waved, smiling a little. But I wish to remain for now. Dende, look after them for me, alright? Okay. Dende waved back. Time to go. Mori looked up at the hovering dragon. Porunga! Please find us an uninhabited planet as similar to the original planet Namek as possible. And let all the Namekians on this planet except for Kami, Nail, and Piccolo be transported there. It shall be done! Porunga's eyes glowed for quite some time. Your wish has been granted. Farewell! Porunga vanished in a burst of yellow light, and the Dragon Balls rose into the sky. The assembled Nameks began to fade, bidding their final farewells. Gohan wiped a tear from his eyes as Dende disappeared with the others. The remaining group, Goku, Gohan, Chi-Chi, Bulma, Zarbon, Tien, Yamcha, Chaozu, Launch, Bulma, Doctor, and Mrs. Brief and Nail, stood for an awkward 30 seconds before a familiar voice heralded a new arrival. Hey guys! How have things been going while I was gone? Goku grinned from ear to ear. Krillin! Welcome home. Well, this chapter concludes the Namek Saga. I hope you all enjoyed it. I know I did. So, will we be starting with the Android Saga next chapter? Not exactly. It's still 3 years before the androids are due to arrive, and 3 years is a long time for nothing to happen. So expect something. In fact, expect several somethings. And I was asked a while back to recommend music for the story. Well, I'll only do it occasionally, but music that I think fits the Raditz/Cooler battle is Free Fall by 2 Steps from Hell. Aw, Goku. So, does Raditz look like Super Saiyan 3 as a Super Saiyan? In terms of his hair, pretty much. He does have eyebrows, however, and he lacks the blue sparky aura and the other things that made Super Saiyan 3 unique. So was Gohan unconscious when Cooler killed his father? Because given his rage, I would have guessed that was where he would have gone Super Saiyan as well. Then again, he was close enough to Krillin in the canon that he possibly could have done it there as well. Is he just not powerful enough to transform yet? Also, Cooler killed the 2 people next to her, but not Bulma? First thing, he was unconscious, but even if he hadn't been, he lacked the power and the emotional maturity. He experienced a lot of anger as a kid, but it was short-lived and, well, shallow doesn't sound right, but I can't think of a better word for it. Simple, maybe. Goku and Raditz have lived to adulthood. They've built up their worldview and their mental constructs for longer. They've got farther to fall. For the heck of it, please read my review in the voice of Team 4-Star Nappa.
Well, what do you know, Vegeta? Raditz is the Super Saiyan. Not only that, but he's kicking Cooler's can big time. But Frieza's head? I don't know about that. Because if Daddy finds his little princess's head, we could get a much stronger Mecha Frieza. I have to say though, this chapter gave me the chills every now and then. But it's still Raditz and not you, or even Kakarot. I wonder how that makes you feel. Hey, Vegeta? 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 God damn it, Nappa.
The Super Saiyan power tried to reject him? How odd. Last I checked, that power doesn't pick who it gets, it just appears under the right conditions. So, why the rejection? Is it just Raditz thinking he isn't worthy? Pretty much. It's down to state of mind, right? So even if the rejection is all in his head, that's going to have consequences in the real world. He can't transform if he has doubts. Just read up to this chapter in one sitting, and I think it's pretty much in the top 5 DBZ fics I've ever read. Right up there with Change of Heart and Dragon Ball Legends by Night or Die and Vima. Totally wasn't expecting Goku's death. It's a nice twist. Also, I'm a little disappointed with the lack of Piccolo. He's missing some serious character development, especially if he's in hell deprived of a body. Hopefully this chapter has reassured you that Piccolo is back in business, as they say. Well, see you on Wednesday for a new chapter and a new saga. Thank you for listening to chapters 18 through 19. I hope you've enjoyed it. With the conclusion of the Namek Saga, things are going to get crazy when the androids finally showed up. But it looks like we're going to be having a little bit of a mini-saga. The Cold Family Saga, as Captain Space has described it. I hope to see you next week. But before I go, a little bit of a heads up. Starting with the Android Saga, I won't be doing the Q&A sections of the author's notes. They simply take way too much out of the chapter, and I've read up to about chapter 50 of the actual story, and these Q&As, they take up about a quarter of the fanfic, and I don't want you all just to listen to me reading questions and answers. I want you to actually listen to a really good story. So anyway, after I get done with the Cold Family Saga, there'll be no more Q&As. I'll still read the author's notes, don't worry about that. But anyway, enough rambling. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, favorite, comment, subscribe, tell a friend. And as always, I will see you in the next episode. Stay safe. Bye!